Belizean Legends, and I'm Bilal Morris. Today we will be speaking with a very dynamic Belizean woman, Jennifer Betson. Jennifer Betson comes from one of the old school type journalist, Belizean woman, a born-again Christian evangelist, but someone who has migrated to the United States here in Los Angeles and have done extremely well in terms of what she says that she was going to do when she comes here. A very good friend of mine that goes way back. I want to welcome Jennifer Betson here to the studios of Belizean Legends. Jenny, I want to welcome you, my dear, and it's been a pleasure. We've been talking about getting you here for a long time, huh?
Thank you.
Yeah, your story for me starts at the Amandala newspaper. Your story though, your articles that you had written in the Amandala was very informative, very dynamic. It shows you the cut of your cloth that you were about to become what you are today. But you also were an athlete. You were very athletic in volleyball, and you were very sports. You were a sports person. But the most important thing about you is that you were a very spiritual person. You were someone who was very involved with your church. You were a born-again Christian, and you were very active on those three levels. Talk about your beginning, Jenny Betson. Talk about where it all started for you in terms of your spirituality, your journalism, and your whole work in terms of what you have become today.
Oh, that's a threefold question, so let me see if I could answer them categorically. My spirituality, as you know, as Belizeans, most people would go to church as children. If your parents didn't go with you, most of them would send you. So we grew up with that background of religious training and discipline that really formed me. They were a very much intricate part of my formative years. And even though I strayed when I thought I was grown in high school, and after that I did my own thing for a while, the Lord had a hand on me, like He does most people, but they're not responsive. So at 17, 18, I had given my life to the Lord, and my brother, who's a pastor now, Evangelist Betson from the Presbyterian Church, he was a very instrumental person in guiding me and helping me to be the person I am today. So a lot of credit to him. And ever since then, I realized as a young Christian, I had this passion in my heart that everybody's born with a purpose. And I remember crying out to the Lord, and I said, what is my purpose? Because I used to see so many people aimlessly walking through life without no purpose. So I said, what is my purpose? And your purpose is connected to your giftings. So from I was little, whenever we had a rainy day, I wanted to be the teacher, the one instructing and correcting, etc. So I realized there was some type of seed there for me to nurture. So I said, okay. I realized that my gifting had to do with teaching, talking with people, counseling, etc. So I pursued that to some degree. Got my CXC in Belize in English. Did well in that. Then shortly after, my church sent me to Jamaica to study with CEF-LTI, which stands for Child Evangelism Fellowship Leadership Training Institute. So people from all parts of the Caribbean. That was so exciting in 1985. We had people from all over the Caribbean. It was amazing. And the instructors were from the States though. And I learned how to become a teacher of teachers. And that was the beginning of my spiritual walk. And then I went with YWAM, Youth with a Mission in Belize for 5 months. Then I was also a candidate for Crossroads International. And 2 people they pick every year, and they picked me to become a candidate. So we did this whole international cultural exchange in Canada. So I toured Canada for 6 months, and that was awesome. I learned so much about other people, culture, myself, God, etc. And to just be open to what's out there. So spiritually, that's my beginning. And the other part was my journalistic experience. But when I came here, I was a little disappointed to say, you know my story. when I went to KPFK, what happened. I don't want to get into that.
Trained by KPFK right there, Belizeans. This is a product of KPFK, Los Angeles.
In a good way. And after that, I went to ARN, American Radio Network, and I did my own shows called Kaleidoscope under their auspices. Then I branched off into my own shows on KTYM. For years I had a weekly show. I did some TV over here on Comcast, and it changed its name so many times. Then it went to what now? What is it after Comcast? Warner Brothers? No.
I can't even remember
I know.
the name of those cable.
No, it's
Comcast is a long time ago.
I know it is.
Yeah.
It was Continental at one point, I believe.
Continental cable.
No, it's Spectrum.
Yeah, I think it's Spectrum
Yeah.
now, right?
So I took advantage of those free TV, and I did my show for a couple of years. That was good. It was called Rags to Righteousness. So that was my journey with that part, my journalism. I've been a teacher for many years, and I don't know if you want to explore that. But
very much so, and we want to tell your audience that Jennifer Betson is also an educator.
My thing was, I wanted to be in shape. I was very athletic, etc.
Right. Always was that type of person.
I like the bikes. I did like volleyball.
You were multifaceted in terms of sports.
Yeah, I did dancing.
You ride bike also. You were cycling. You did cycling.
Not professionally, but I had
you had the talent for it. But you never did participate in teams and stuff like that. You would have been awesome. You would have probably been Belize's first female cross-country champion, huh?
Who knows?
Yeah, girl, you had that, man.
I guess nobody pushed me to say, well, go there, you know.
Yes, man.
Because I did dancing for 12 years with Leo Mar.
Because
I just believe in being active, you know. Even now at my age, at 53, I still want to be active, you know. So
I always remember that about you, Jenny, and that you were always a very athletic person that kept in shape. Was always exercising, and I always thought that you were playing on teams.
No.
I knew that you were multifaceted when it comes to sports.
They asked me to, but I told them no.
You know, wow, you would have been one of Belize's gems. You played softball? Did you play softball?
I was not into softball, no, not really.
Yeah.
I like table tennis is my #1 passion. Yeah. The first time I played was right at, is it CBA, that place on Prince Street and outside? At CBA, is it CBA?
Yeah, CBA.
Yeah, that's where I learned how to play ping pong.
You
love
that game.
Yeah, a couple of teachers were there in the lounge, and I used to go and play in our church bar at a table. Ever since.
Jenny, we want to sort of talk about the thing that you have excelled in so well, and that you have made a contribution back to society, and as a contribution back to Belize and all that, is the work that you have been doing in terms of your writing. You have struck out a life where you have written a book, right? You have also written songs, right? And you have done a lot of things as a motivational speaker through your evangelist movement. And talk about the work that you are presently doing right now here in Los Angeles. Talk about that.
Okay, well, let's start with my book. Many years ago, I wrote the book, as you know, my first edition, my first baby. The book is called Dumb Things Parents Say to Their Children. Something that I believe that any parent could resonate with. It doesn't matter if you're Belizean, American, white, black, etc. And recently I bought up my rights with that book, to that book.
As you spoke about the book, and here is the book that Jennifer Betson is talking about, that she has written, Dumb Things Parents Say to Their Children. Talk about this book and what is it that you are trying to push, the message that you were trying to say in the book.
Okay, like I said, I'm working on my second edition with a new publisher because I want to redo the whole page. I don't want to put a picture up there of any child of any color because I do not want it to be a hindrance to allow people to get the main content of the book. And so when it comes out, you will see the new edition and extra chapters, etc., new cover. But the purpose of writing the book, Dumb Things Parents Say to Their Children, is based primarily on negative things that parents have said to their children through ignorance and haste. And words,
verbal abuse,
and they may not have realized it, but words are like seeds. They take root. And I want the parents to see that they need to check their words before they speak it over their children. And because children will believe those words, and it will affect them later on. So I wanted to show in this book that we need to affirm our children. And being a teacher here in California for Los Angeles for over 20 years, I've seen it with young kids and older kids. I've taught from 3rd grade all the way up to high school. And some things that the children confided in me were things that the parents said to them. Stuff like, you will be just like your no good daddy. And I asked, well, who picked the daddy? You picked the daddy. Yeah. So if you're gonna
that's a good rebuttal in terms of coming back.
Yes, who picked the daddy? Yeah. Or you'll never amount to anything. And I put in the book how even George Foreman mentioned one time, I was listening to him on an interview, that one of his uncles told him, boy, you will never amount to anything. He said, well, I want that uncle to see me now. So we think that these words are just, roll off our backs like ducks, but that's not true. We need to affirm the children, speak life over them, into them. Because if you've been told all your life, you will never amount to anything from your parents or other people, you will begin to believe those lies. I'm not into all this self-affirmation and self-that, but we need to have a healthy balance of our image, not too highly, not too lowly, not too low, not low esteem and not too high esteem where you think you're better than other people, but a balanced, healthy look at yourself.
And basically the book was written for everybody. For mostly it was targeting families.
Exactly.
Were you basically looking more at dysfunctional families, because that's where you see a lot of verbal abuse?
Well, who is not dysfunctional today? We're all dysfunctional, but different levels, I believe. Some people, you mention dysfunction and you see them in a dictionary, but you may think you're not dysfunctional. But if you really look at some families, they are. The communication level is lacking. So it's not necessarily for dysfunctional, but for parents on a whole, because even kids who've grown up in good families, a lot of them would say, my parents may not have told me those negative things, but guess what? They didn't affirm me. They didn't say, son, you will do great things. People didn't tell me growing up, you're going to be a great person. You will change the world. You will have an impact on people. Nobody told me those things. If I were told those things earlier, I think I would have gone further by now. So
there's this Afrocentric scholar, Dr. Creswell Sleepy, that has said that most of the verbal abuse comes from children in dysfunctional families, and I put that in quotes as you really rightfully say, because most families are dysfunctional anyway. But she was talking about those single parent households like these that has just these single mothers that has no father, and the father is not there. These children grow up without feeling what a male hand would feel like. And when the child turns out to be gay, they want to know why. And the little boys start asking, "Mommy, I want to dress." They have never felt what it's like to have a man to hold their hand. And as you know, in Black America, and all black people all over the world, including Belize itself, that is a serious problem. A lot of these children are growing up without fathers. And that's where the quote-unquote the social workers or socials call it dysfunctional, because then there is no father in the home, and the mother is always telling the child, you're no good dad, and where the nigger at, and he's either locked up in jail. And so I think your book is one that is right on time in terms of you being also an educator, because you have seen these things played out in your classroom. The after effects of these verbal abuses, right? Yeah.
I want to just read a little portion of, I hope I can read without my glasses. It says broken arrows. In the back I have it says, many of our children are broken arrows that cannot fly straight because of how they were shaped in their parents' quiver. It is the parents' responsibility to prepare those arrows to hit the God-intended target when released into the future. Many of the arrows are out there have landed in the wrong spots, therefore causing chaos and pain to the parents and society. We need to go and retrieve the broken arrows, mend them through prayer and other ways as well. Some arrows have been released prematurely, so they did not go as far as they could have gone. Some were released unprepared to handle a rough world. Parents must keep their arrows sharp and ready for their launching. Our children should pick up where we left off and don't have to start over. We were arrows launched by our parents. Now we are preparing to launch our arrows. So I have 3 questions, and it says, what kind of arrows are you preparing? 2, are they being aimed at the right target? And 3, how well prepared are they for the future?
Wow, that's very profound. You also was able to take this work that you are doing through literature, through writing books, but you'll also be able to take it to the television screen. You'll also be able to take it through radio. Talk about your television show and what is it that you actually, what was your show actually about?
Okay. The show that I had done for many years on the cable over here was called Rags to Righteousness. And the name is very intentional. You have heard rags to riches, right?
Right.
But most people will not go from rags to riches, but you can go from rags to righteousness. So I used to look for people who were down and out. They were in rags, maybe not necessarily physically, but maybe emotionally, spiritually, etc., to righteousness. They did a 180 in their life, not a 360. People think 360. No, a 180.
Yeah.
We know geometry.
Right. It didn't turn all the way.
Thank you.
It went halfway.
Exactly. So the 180, you know, you made a complete turn there backwards. But so I was looking for people who had a story. And for instance, this one man, he was given a life sentence for drug dealing. And somehow a miracle happened in jail where they cut his sentence to 8 years, and his public defendant, when he went to the court to speak with him, and he wanted to give him a letter of thanks, the court said, we don't have anyone here by that name. So he firmly believed there was an angel who helped him, and I believe in angels because I could tell you a story, many stories of angels. So that story to me was a rags to righteousness. He got turned around in jail permanently, not just a jailhouse religion like people talk about today. So it's people like that who used to go one way and now their lives have been changed. Totally different.
And for the good.
For the good.
There is no turning back in terms of that their structure, because you rightfully said that it's for some people it's not a 360 degrees turn, but it's a 180. They just go halfway.
Well, what the 180 means, the 180 means this is how you need to go. Because if you do a 360, you're going to go back in the same way. Okay. So 180 means like you go in the opposite direction.
Counterclockwise.
Exactly. So you don't want to do a 360.
Right.
So that is the terminology.
Very much. You have also embarked on music. You're also a songwriter.
Yes. And
you have also put your skills and your talents in writing music. Is the music gospel or is it love music? Talk about the music that you have embarked on.
Well, I decided to, at this point, I have restricted myself to love songs, the genre of love songs, ballads.
Yes.
And I've written several that have not been published yet, but I have one out there on iTunes, as you know, called Love at First Sight. I didn't sing it, but I wrote the words, the lyrics. So at this point, I'm looking for someone to take it bigger and higher for me in the meantime. But it's on iTunes, as you know, Love at First Sight.
Right.
So, but it's a love song. Yes.
Distributor, and you want to get a sort of a contract where you can distribute it bigger.
Exactly.
How did you continue that here in the United States in terms of coming to meet the black church, which I know that you are very, very, very prominent in now? You and your husband were very prominent in the black church. How were you able to make that transition? It's a question that I've always asked a lot of people who were Caribbean Christians, and they have always talked about when they make that transition into America. It was a big difference for them. It was like a culture shock being that it's the same, they all belong to the same religion, but as you know, Caribbean evangelism is very different from the evangelism that we see here in America. Being that the Black Baptist Church is very prominent. Talk about when you made that transition.
Well, I did not, when I came here 27 years ago, I just knew I had to be in a fellowship. Number one, I was looking for a couple of things. One, where my gifts can be in use, because I'm very gifted. I don't want to go anywhere and sit, because people need to be served. We have a lot of needs. You know, being a teacher, being a writer, I sing, but not professionally, but I can sing. All these things. So I wanted to see where my giftings are needed. And in the Black community, especially, we have a lot of needs. And being a teacher, a lot of those kids are in the same churches most of the time, because most of the schools where I've taught, 90% of the kids were Black. I hate to title Black church. I don't like the dichotomy there, but it's a reality where, like, okay, predominantly. But the transition, I did not consciously step into and say, okay, now I'm going to modify this, or some things did change, yes, because we're surrounded by maybe 20% Latino or whites, Asians, etc. Sure. So I have, what should I say, toned down some things just to, I want to say, fit in. Or
tweak certain
things. Exactly,
yeah.
You know, because you can't, it's hard to, yeah, exactly. I remember one time I gave you an illustration, you said, oh, I like that. Sometimes we keep the structure, but we throw away the content.
Yes.
But you have to keep the structure. So that's what I'm doing somewhat, you know. So, but it is different, and we have to work with, because you want unity. And it's not always about me.
Yes. And then in meeting your husband, who comes out of the Black Baptist Church, right?
Yes.
How were you able, in terms of you and him, in terms of compromises, and so was there no kind of
problem? No, not at all. Because no, my husband, he was very flexible. He's very grounded. He's a military man, very disciplined and structured, and rigid in certain.
Well, you had the kind of wife to match him right.
Oh yeah. Well, that's another interview. And he told me he needed a strong Black woman.
And that's what I'm saying. He got one. He got one in you, Jennifer Betson, because you are a very strong Black Caribbean woman from Belize. You embodied all the characteristics and all those things that makes you a very strong person.
But it can be intimidating.
Yeah, indeed, and I've heard that from a lot of women who said that, oh, I don't have no husband because men find me too intimidating. So I'm like, okay, why aren't you married yet? I would ask, and they would say, because they have their own job, they have their own this and that. I'm like, you can't be alone like that all along. But they find me too intimidating. So you're so right with that. I want to say this is Belizean Legends, and I'm Bilal Morris, and we are speaking with Jennifer Betson, a Belizean Evangelist Christian, writer, motivational speaker, songwriter. And Jennifer Betson comes to Belizean Legends Studios after a long time in terms of trying to get her to come and talk about her work here. And we just want to share this with our Belizean audience, that this is a sister from the hood in Belize, a sister from Belize that has migrated to the United States and is looking forward to give something back. And this is what she's giving back, and that's what we here at Belizean Legends is all about. To let you, the audience, hear these stories about people who are living in the diaspora and are doing dynamic things. I have a CD in my hand here, Jenny, and it's called Heavenly Touch, Jennifer B. Williams, and your married name is Williams.
Yes.
Talk about this awesome piece of project, because I had a chance many years ago to hear it myself. Talk about Heavenly Touch, and we want to make sure, Malik, we get a close up on this very important project, because are we clear on it? Yeah, and also in the back here of this awesome CD collection, which we will hear from Jenny in a few minutes what this is about, is a picture of her and a collection of about
23.
23. And when people see 23, they will say, "What? She did all of that?" You know. Talk about this.
That's just half of my poems, or less than half.
Very much.
Yeah. But Heavenly Touch, even the name Heavenly Touch, I thought about a name, I prayed about a name, and this is what came to me. These poems are a compilation of life lessons. They were not just roses are red, violets are blue type poem. Everyone, for instance, the first one, never give up. Many people can resonate with never give up, because we've all felt like giving up many times in our career, in our families, etc. We feel like we're not progressing. You just want to give up. So I wrote that to encourage people as a motivation. Never give up. Even athletes, when you're running the last finish, the last couple strides, never give up. So I know many people who have listened to Never Give Up hundreds of times when they wanted to give up, and this has helped them. So trusting God, the death of procrastination, these are some of them. God determination. God determination is one of my favorite, because people need to be more determined to pursue their goals. Don't let obstacles stop you. If I had allowed obstacles, and if you had allowed obstacles to stop you, you wouldn't have been where you are now. You know, persistence, exactly. And being a teacher, I love being a teacher, because I get to do what a lot of parents don't get to do. We are with those kids. We're both teachers. We're with those kids from 8 to sometimes, if you do daycare, 6, but I don't do daycare. We're with them every day for hours, so we can influence, impact, motivate them. And like I tell the kids, the biggest mistake that kids make is to think that they're doing this work for the teachers. I say, you're not doing this for me. I say, I get a paycheck every 2 weeks, whether you learn or not. Yeah. But I want to motivate you. You're in America. There's no limit. Yeah. You know, I came here without a degree. I have a master's degree, working on my doctorate degree. And I want to do more things, because people need what we have. We don't need another student in jail, you know. And I hate the fact that they took prayer out of public schools, because they took prayer and the Bible out of public schools, but guess what? They allow it in jails.
Yeah. Look at that. That's back way, you know. Sort of the cart before the horse.
Exactly.
You know. That's an interesting analogy when you break that down. I didn't even think about it that way.
Yes.
That they took it out of the school, but they put it in the jail.
Yeah, you could read the Bible and pray in the jail, but you can't do that in the school.
They take away the freedom of the human being, and then they give him the Bible. But then when he's free outside, they take it away.
Yes.
That's kind of, it sounds like a trap. It just sounds like a trap. Or some kind of by design, something that is set up by design. But go ahead in terms of what you were saying.
Yes, but that's basically, it's just totally motivational, because that's what I like to do, encourage people, motivate them, and let them know that, you know, the saddest thing for me, Bilal, is to see students with great potential, and they just let it die. Like, wow, Johnny, I even wrote a poem, it's not up here for my next CD, but Johnny was a good boy. Oh, but Johnny was a good boy. I'm tired of hearing, but he was such a good boy. What happened? He was with the wrong crowd. No parent thinks that his or her child is with the wrong crowd. Like, you're the wrong crowd. No, you're the wrong crowd. Right. But Johnny grew up right. People go like, I don't know what happened. He came from a good family. He went to church. He did all these things, and boom. Yes, but Johnny was a good boy.
And that's a very being that you are personality that traverse across 3 different spectrums: spirituality, education, you know, and in terms of social work, in terms of what you do, you have seen these things. And that's a question that is still baffling a lot of people, especially educators today, in terms of why is it that a lot of these children who comes out of very structured homes have had everything that was given to them, but yet they turned out, you know, they did not turn out to be as productive as they could have been, or they come from very good background, but they ended up in jail. They ended up dead. It's a baffling question today, and for special educators as myself, you see, in this country, everything is offered to them in the schools, but yet they don't want. Not all of them, but a lot of them do not want to learn. They do not cherish the education. They find it's a burden, and there's so many different factors. But from you who have traversed these 3 different disciplines, what would you say, Jenny, that is the problem there? Why is it that sort of phenomenon is happening?
Well, when you cannot answer a complex question like that with a simple answer, I believe the root, everything has a root. I believe the root problem is, if the forces outside are greater than the force within you, you will be a failure. You'll become a victim. So when the parents, like I read just now about the arrows, when those parents launch those arrows,
well, that's why the teachers say they get it from home then. You a subscriber to that?
That they get it from home?
That their behavior, oh, they get it from home, that's why they behave like that.
Well,
the child is giving trouble in the classroom, and the teachers, the first thing, I mean, I sit in a lot of PDD meetings, and the first thing they're going to tell you, they get it from home. That's like 90% of uneducators' what do you say?
They get it from a lot of places, but you have to look at the media. My parents did not raise me the way I was raised, and I did some things, as we all have, during that period of time. We were on our own, we wanted liberty, but because we thought that liberty means to do what you want. So if your influence and your peers are pushing you, they will have a greater impact on you. That's why when you want to reach a group of young people, find a leader.
Yes.
Find the leader. Who is the leader? Let me talk with the leader. They did that with
followers.
Exactly. So when you deal with the leader, influence them, they can impact those little followers under them. So, like I said, the greatest factor is, how is it? And this will, if you want to spin off on this, I know you're interviewing me, but my husband grew up in the Pueblos, one of the projects here in California, LA. Rough.
Which is another name for the projects, like Jordan Down projects. Yeah.
Rough neighborhood. Yeah. But he went to the military afterwards. He is an IT engineer today. He's doing really well. We've been married for almost 25 years. So my thing is, some of his same peers grew up in the same projects, and they came out differently. Some are in jail, some are dead, some are in drugs. But look at that. Yeah. So divine intervention. The
results are different.
Yes.
What you're saying is that no matter what you apply, solution you apply to the problem, you will get a varied amount of results.
Choices.
Some of them will. You talk about the 360 degrees and the 180. Some will come all the way. Some will not come all the way. Some will not make it at all. Yeah. And that's just the way it is, that we cannot expect 100% success rate in terms of turning young people around into being productive citizens. You find also too, Jenny, that you find that children learn differently.
True.
You know, that is one of the things as an educator that I have found. You have children who are visual learners. Yeah. You have children who you cannot give them a textbook, and you have to teach them visually because there's a television generation and they're watching stuff. And so all these things need to be taken into consideration instead of just writing off that child. And I think this is something I want to bring you to, Jenny, in terms of growing up in Belize, you and I. We have written off a lot of our young people with just this academic stuff. And we have cast them out. They're like a cast. And that we have said that, because they couldn't pass 6 GCs and 9 GCs, then they're no good. We grew up in a British farm system that says that, how would you today, as a motivational speaker, educator, a spiritual counselor, how would you address that problem that we have there today in Belize? What would you say about that? That is that going to work for Belize? Does Belize have to change that kind of mindset where we just cast out those who cannot do good in the academics?
Well,
and call them by boy and by girl?
Labels.
Yeah.
It goes back to a certain degree with this book. Labels. How have you been labeled all your life? First of all, by your parents, by others. So you will tend to believe the people who are closest to you. So we cannot continue to dump out the baby and the bath with the bath water, so to speak. You know, we have to see value in those children. And that's something that I try to teach, integrate into my regular academics when I'm teaching the kids. I do chapel every week and daily devotional daily devotional. But throughout my day, sometimes I say, you know what, we're not going to learn any English right now or literature. Let's do some life lessons. What are you dealing with in your neighborhood, in your family, etc.? What's going on in your life? Because I used to have kids who would come. Let them talk about it. I would have kids come in my class, high schoolers, high as a kite, and their eyes are red. I'm like, you're not ready to learn. She's all sleepy and like, oh man, like, what's up, Miss Williams? You know, how can I deal with that? And I'm not trained to deal with all these issues like that. So that's the part of teaching I hated, where I have to do the discipline and the counseling and the therapist, everything but teaching. So I have to be flexible with my schedule. I mean, I get through the curriculum by June, but I know if I've reached 1 or 2 children, I've changed lives. I have kids today who we're friends now on Facebook. Say, Miss Williams, thank you so much that you touched my life. And that is a blessing to hear that. I have a student, she's an RN working in ICU for the children's department in the OC, Children's Hospital. I felt so proud. You know, this one boy, he almost got drafted for the NBA, but he messed up and didn't follow through. But I'm just saying that we as teachers, we cannot take our positions lightly. You know, it could be life and death for that child. You know, they're looking to somebody to look up to them, to believe in them. You know, I'm going back to value, and I could be talking about value all day. Recently, I did a teaching at a Korean youth group. I have
totally out of your culture.
Yes, and they received me. It's on YouTube too. So I'll send that link to you so you can watch it.
Like to see that.
It talks about value. Where do you find your value? In your financial stability, social status, economic, whatever. And I had them to think. And I picked up $1. You may have seen this illustration. I picked up $1, balled it up, and I threw it on the floor. And I said, does that still have value? They said, yes. I said, that's how some of you are. You may think because nobody sees value in you, you're all worn out, jacked up, rejects, abandoned. A lot of these kids are just looking for somebody to affirm them.
This is Belizean Legends, and we're speaking with Jennifer Betson-Williams, who is a writer, a Belizean writer. She is also a songwriter, motivational speaker, and a spiritual counselor. You have completed a master's degree, and you're now pursuing a doctorate. I hear a Belizean agriculturist said the other day, and I interviewed him 2 weeks before he died, and he said to me, we have in Belize a lot of people who have degrees but no temperature. I know you like that one.
Oh, I gotta write that down.
It blew me away too, because here I am interviewing this man, and he was just talking about how Belize should be a country that could feed itself. It has so much land, and how Lynham College, I know you've heard of Lynham College in Belize, how they destroyed it because it was producing too much leaders that would have fed that country. So it was destroyed. But he mentioned a thing like that. He said you have a lot of them in the country who have degrees but no temperature. And for me that was very funny.
It is.
But it was serious though, because we sort of get very intimidated by people if they have these things next to their name.
To me, a degree is only that, just a degree. There are many more degrees, and whether I have this degree officially or not, to me, in my mind, it's what I'm doing. It's not what's on my wall. Okay, how do people perceive me? How am I changing lives? Because that's the bottom line of my whole life. How can I impact other people? Well, it means like Jesus. He washed these men's feet. You know, he got in there with them.
He had no degrees.
He had no degrees.
He was not described as the Pharisees who were walking around
exactly.
like they
think they were better than pompous.
You know, they hated him anyway. You know.
The reason the number one, if you want to reach people, identify with them. No, but you identify with their issues, their problems, their whatever they're dealing with, because there's a plethora of things that, especially people in our younger generation, they're dealing with that we did not have to deal with. So identification with their problems, see where you could help them. I am a very pragmatic person. I want to see solution. If I go to a board meeting, let's see how we're going to solve this thing. Don't have all these PowerPoints and next meeting, what did you get done? Nothing. No. No. If we say we're going to pave the street, let's pave the street. When? Next Tuesday. Good. We're over with that. So, identification with the people. Don't dismiss them. Set aside those degrees, because you're trying to, first of all, identify your niche. You're trying to reach the inner city, the urban kids, the suburban kids. Who are you trying to reach?
Who is your audience?
Who is your audience? And then you go and learn about them before you go and just preach to them.
Throw all that stuff.
Exactly. Why feed them corn if that's not what they need? You know? So my greatest passion is to use what I have to pull up others, let them know that there's no limitation. I'm planning to, when my book is re-released in a new format, second edition, totally different, I'm going to go to Belize to do a book tour, a book signing and a book tour, and hopefully it could be, I could put them in bookstores in Belize, etc. So, but let them know that my CD's on iTunes.
Yes, and Jennifer Betson's CD is on iTunes, and please look her up and enjoy what this dynamic woman of Belizean soil is here to offer. And I wanted to also ask you, what is your PhD dissertation is going to be about, and your master's dissertation, if you did dissertation?
Yes, I did. The master's had to do with, my master's is in leadership. And for the PhD, it's, I may use my book or do an extension with my leadership with intimacy, because I did some research, and obviously I had to do research and interviews. I interviewed a couple pastors and I asked them, what is your time frame and a factor concerning how much time you're building up yourself? And it was sad, because people are so busy pulling on them. I'm like, you're neglecting that, and eventually you'll take a toll on your health, mentally as well. So I want to explore that, I think, balance there.
What is your plans for Belize in terms of, you have gathered all this vast amount of knowledge after your migration from Belize to the United States? What is it that you would like to do for Belize in the long run?
My heart breaks when I hear and see the stories that are going on in Belize, because it's not the Belize that I grew up in, as we all know. And I am a firm believer of making a difference, even if it's a small difference. So I have to sit down first and ask myself, what is it that I can do effectively? I don't want to do 10 things, I'm not effective. I'd rather do 1 or 2 things, and I'm effective to change lives, who will be able to change others as well. So in practicality, what I like to do is hook up with someone or start something on my own where I can work with the youth to some degree. My husband had talked about doing an after-school program. He can teach computers to them, give them practical tools that they can use. But it reminds me of the scripture in Proverbs that says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Where there is no vision, the people perish. And that's what happened. These kids have lacked vision. A hopeless person is a dangerous person, because you don't care about yourself, so why should you care about me? So it goes back to that scripture, where there's no vision, the people perish. Have resources, have mentors, have accountability, have something for them to look forward to, you know? So to put some life and hope into them.
We know that it's not all of our young males that are involved with that kind of life, that has been shut out. I don't know. It's been discarded. I don't know if it is government's fault. I don't know if it's a half and half thing, Jenny. If it's 50% the individual, and part of the blame is 50% the individual and 50% government. But like you said, in quoting that scripture, vision. And both look like both the government and the people, those people are lacking vision. Because why is it that you as a government cannot provide sporting facilities. It's an outlet that's always been like that for you and I, Jenny.
Yeah.
We had these things where we were able to go and play some kind of sport.
That's what Denzel Washington said about the Boys and Girls Club in America. That's what saved him. He went to the Boys and Girls Club.
And today, it seems and it appears to be that there is a difficulty for people to take these young people off the streets. Those ones who have been trapped in that system, in that way, in gangs and other ways, and taking them, and how do you harness that talent and bring it back?
Until something affects you, you're not going to be involved. It's not what
exactly.
And that's what's going on. It's, that's those little bad kids there in the part of Belize City. So we are untouchable over here. I just go in my car, fly in my plane, go in my boat, and something not affecting you, you're not going to get involved.
Indeed, and you know, Jenny, it's so true. As a politician drives through with a tinted glass, and you know, you don't elect me already, so I don't really care about you.
Parents are saying, oh, I want to give my kids the stuff that they have. So to the degree where a lot of kids today are very spoiled, they have this mentality of, you know, you owe it to me, etc. But what about giving them the things we did have? Integrity, hard work. I mean, we were not perfect, but the solid foundational things that made us better for society, etc. You know, they respected people, you know. But
those
now,
values.
Those were values.
Jennifer Betson is here today in terms of sharing with us some of the things that could be done as someone, as a motivational speaker, a spiritual counselor, a writer, an author. Jenny, I want to thank you very much in coming to Belizean Legend Studios and doing this interview with us.
My pleasure.